Captain Marcus Reed stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched death approach his home. Through the metal windows, he could see thousands of alien ships. They filled the space around Kepler Station like angry insects around a hive. "Sir, they're sending another message," said Commander Elena Voss. Her voice was calm, but Marcus could see fear in her eyes. "Put it through," Marcus said. The voice that came through the speakers was cold and mechanical. It belonged to Admiral Crix of the Vrak Empire. "Humans of Kepler Station, this is your final warning. Surrender now or face complete destruction. You have 1 hour to decide." Marcus looked around his bridge. His crew was small now. Only 43 people left on the ship that once carried 300. The war had taken so many friends, so many good people. "Tom, how are our weapons?" Marcus asked. Chief Engineer Tom Blake wiped grease from his hands. "Not good, Captain. We have maybe 6 missiles left. The main guns are working, but barely. The power core is damaged." Marcus nodded. He had expected this. They had been fighting for 3 years. 3 long years since the Galactic Council declared war on humanity. The aliens said humans were too violent, too dangerous. They said humanity needed to be removed from civilized space. At first, the war had gone well for humans. Their ships were faster. Their weapons hit harder. But there were so many alien races working together. The Vrak with their heavy cruisers. The Nexari with their crystal ships that could bend light. The Threx with their gas-filled vessels that moved like ghosts. One by one, human colonies had fallen. Earth was gone. Mars was gone. The outer colonies were ash and memory. Now only Kepler Station remained, the last piece of humanity in the galaxy. "Elena, send a message to all ships," Marcus said. "Tell them we fight." Elena hesitated. "Sir, maybe we should think about this. There are families on the station, children." Marcus turned to look at her. Elena had been with him for 10 years. She was like a sister to him. "Do you think they will let the children live if we surrender?" Elena's face went pale. She knew the answer. The aliens had made their intentions clear. No human would be allowed to remain in civilized space. They would be sent to dead worlds at the edge of the galaxy. Worlds with no air, no water, no hope. "Send the message," Elena said quietly. The response from the other human ships was immediate. Captain Lisa Kane of the Horizon was the first to reply. "We stand with you, Marcus, until the end." Admiral David Cross of the heavy cruiser Thunder sent his answer next. "My crew is ready. We'll make them remember this day." One by one, all 27 remaining human ships confirmed their choice. They would fight. The alien fleet began to move. Marcus watched as the massive Vrak battleships pushed forward. Their energy shields glowed blue in the darkness of space. Behind them came the Nexari ships, looking like beautiful crystal sculptures. The Threx vessels were harder to see, their hulls designed to blend with space itself. "All ships, this is Marcus Reed," the captain said into his communicator. "Remember what we are fighting for. Remember who we are. We are human. We do not kneel. We do not surrender. We fight until the end." The battle began with light. Thousands of energy beams crossed space like deadly rainbows. The alien ships fired in perfect formation, their attacks coordinated and precise. This was how civilized races fought wars, clean, organized, efficient. The humans fought differently. The Defiance dove straight into the enemy line, its engines screaming. Marcus had ordered all power diverted from shields to speed. The ship moved faster than any Vrak captain thought possible. "Tom, prepare the ramming sequence," Marcus ordered. "Sir, that's against all space warfare laws," Tom said. "Good thing we're not civilized," Marcus replied. The Defiance slammed into a Vrak cruiser at full speed. The alien ship's shields held for exactly 2 seconds before the human ship punched through. Both vessels exploded in a ball of fire and metal, but Marcus and his crew had already abandoned ship. They had jumped to escape pods just before impact. This was the human way. Use everything as a weapon, even your own death. Across the battlefield, other human ships followed the same insane tactics. Captain Kane turned the Horizon into a massive missile. steering it directly into a cluster of Nexari vessels. The crystal ships shattered like glass. Admiral Cross did something even crazier. He opened all airlocks on the Thunder and used the escaping air to push his ship faster. Then he set off every explosive on board. The blast took out 6 alien ships. The aliens were confused. This was not how space battles were supposed to work. Where were the formation tactics? Where was the honor? Where was the civilized behavior? They're animals, Admiral Crick said to his second-in-command. They fight like wild beasts. But the wild beasts were winning. The humans had no formations, no plans, no coordination. Each ship fought alone, using whatever weapons they could find. Some fired regular missiles. Others launched chunks of metal at high speed. One captain even opened his cargo bay and threw containers of industrial chemicals at enemy ships. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the space around Kepler Station was filled with wreckage. Pieces of ships floated everywhere. Human and alien metal mixed together in a deadly cloud. Most of the human ships were gone. The station itself was breaking apart, its hull cracked and burning. But the alien fleet had paid a terrible price. They had lost over half their ships to an enemy they outnumbered 10-1. In the command center of Kepler Station, the last few humans gathered around a radio. Marcus was there, somehow still alive after his ship exploded. Elena had made it to the station before the Defiance was destroyed. Tom was there too, his hands still covered in grease from trying to fix weapons until the very end. "This is the end," Elena said. "The station is dying. Life support will fail in an hour." Marcus looked around at the 37 humans left alive, men and women who had fought harder than any creatures in the galaxy. "Then we send our message now." Tom activated the communication system. It was damaged, but it still worked. The signal would reach every corner of the galaxy. Marcus spoke into the microphone. His voice was tired but strong. "This is Captain Marcus Reed of the human race. We know you can hear us. All of you. Every alien species in the galaxy." He paused, looking at his people. "You came to destroy us because you said we were too violent, too dangerous. You were right. We are dangerous. We are dangerous to anyone who tries to make us slaves." The station shook as another section collapsed. "You have won this battle," Marcus continued. "You have killed our worlds. You have scattered our children to the void. But you have not killed our spirit. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, humans still live. And we remember." Marcus looked directly into the camera that would carry his image across space. "You wanted to remove humanity. From civilized space, congratulations, you have succeeded. But remember this, we learned civilization from you, and we rejected it. What comes next will not be civilized. What comes next will be human." The transmission ended. Kepler Station died in fire and silence. But across the galaxy, in hidden places the aliens had not found, humans heard the message. And they began to plan. The war was over, but something darker was about to begin. 15 years had passed since the last human died at Kepler Station. That's what the history books said. That's what every alien in the galaxy believed. Ambassador Crix of the Vrak Empire stood in what used to be human space, looking at reports that made no sense. In the past month, 3 Vrak patrol fleets had simply vanished. No distress calls, no wreckage, no survivors. One day they were there, the next day they were gone. "Show me the patrol routes again," Crix said to his aide. The hologram displayed the missing ships' paths. All 3 fleets had been traveling through asteroid fields that used to belong to humans. The rocks were supposed to be empty now, just dead stone floating in space. "Sir, perhaps it was accidents," the aide suggested. "Asteroid impacts, engine failures." Crick shook his head. 3 different fleets, all with the same accident? No. Something else is happening here. On the other side of former human territory, Dr. Yila faced a similar problem. The Nexari scientist had been studying the mining operations her people had set up on old human worlds. In theory, it should have been easy work. The humans were gone. The planets were empty. Just dig up the metals and leave. But things kept going. Wrong. Mining equipment would malfunction in ways that seemed impossible. Drill bits would snap at exactly the wrong moment, causing cave-ins. Computer systems would fail just when the miners needed them most. Cargo ships would suffer mysterious engine problems right before leaving the planets. It's like the planets don't want us here, one of the miners had told her. Dr. Yila didn't believe in superstition. She was a scientist. But she was starting to think the miner might be right, not because of ghosts or spirits, but because of something much more dangerous. The breakthrough came when Ambassador Crix and Dr. Yila met at a Galactic Council meeting. They were supposed to be discussing trade agreements. Instead, they ended up talking about their mysterious problems, your mining accidents, Crix said. Do they happen in patterns? Dr. Yila pulled out her data tablet. Now that you mention it, yes. Every 7th day, something goes wrong. Always at the same time. Always in the same way. My missing fleets, Crix said. They all disappeared near old human supply depots, places where humans used to refuel their ships. They looked at each other with growing understanding. The humans aren't extinct, Dr. Yila whispered. That night, they began to investigate together. What they found chilled them to their cores. Hidden in asteroid fields disguised as floating debris were human bases. Tiny stations with just enough life support for a few dozen people. They were invisible to most scanners, designed to look like wreckage from the old war, but they weren't empty. Security footage from a Nexari mining ship showed the truth. In the darkness of space, figures in human-made spacesuits moved between the rocks. They planted charges on mining equipment. They sabotaged cargo containers. They turned the asteroid fields into deadly traps. The humans had learned to live in the void between worlds. They survived on recycled air and stolen supplies. They built weapons from scrap metal and powered their stations with solar panels hidden inside fake asteroids. Leading them was Admiral Lisa Kane, the same Lisa Kane who had died ramming her ship into a Nexari fleet 15 years ago. Except she hadn't died. She had escaped in the last moments along with a few dozen crew members. They had been hiding ever since. We are the remnant, she told her people during a secret meeting in their asteroid base. We are what's left of humanity, and we have work to do. Around her, 43 humans listened. They looked different now, thinner, harder. Their eyes held a coldness that came from 15 years of living in the dark. They had children with them, kids who had never seen a planet, never breathed real air, never known anything but war. The aliens think they won, Lisa continued. They divided our worlds among themselves. They're mining our planets and building their stations in our space. They think they're safe. She smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. They're wrong. The remnant had been planning for years. Every alien supply route, every communication relay, every trade station. They had mapped it all. More importantly, they had found ways to attack it all. General David Cross, who had supposedly died with his ship, was alive too. He commanded a group of humans who specialized in sabotage. They would sneak onto alien cargo ships and plant delayed charges. The explosions would happen days later when the ships were far from human space. It looked like accidents. Colonel Jack Stone led another group. They focused on communication systems. They would hack into alien networks and plant viruses that caused systems to fail at crucial moments. When Vrak ships tried to call for help, their radios would mysteriously stop working. But the most terrifying group was led by Colonel Ann Foster. Her people didn't sabotage equipment. They studied the aliens themselves. They learned how each species thought, how they fought, what scared them most. Then they used that knowledge as a weapon. The Threks were proud of their advanced technology, so Foster's team would make their computers display fake readings. Threks, pilots would think their ships were fine right up until they exploded. The Nexari valued beauty and perfection. Foster's people would leave their crystal ships intact but plant tiny devices that made horrible noises. The beautiful vessels became torture chambers for their crews. The Vrak respected military order and discipline. Foster's team would send fake military orders that sent Vrak fleets to empty space. chasing enemies that didn't exist. Dr. Yila realized the scope of what was happening when she analyzed all the incidents together. "They're not just attacking us," she told Ambassador Crix. "They're studying us, learning everything about how we think and fight." "Why?" Crix asked. "Because they're planning something bigger." The answer came 3 months later. In a single coordinated strike, humans hit 17 different targets across the galaxy. Not to destroy them, but to send a message. Every major alien leader received the same transmission at exactly the same time. The image showed Admiral Lisa Kane standing in what looked like a human command center. Behind her, dozens of screens displayed alien military installations, trade routes, and government buildings. "Greetings," Lisa said in a calm voice. "We are the Remnant. We are the humans you thought you killed 15 years ago." She gestured to the screens behind her. "As you can see, we know where you live, we know where you work, we know where your children sleep at night." The camera zoomed in on her face. Her eyes were the cold gray of deep space. "For 15 years you have lived in our homes. You have stolen our planets. You have divided our space among yourselves like we never existed. But we have been watching. We have been learning. And now we have been planning." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You wanted to remove humanity from civilized space. Congratulations, you succeeded. We are no longer bound by civilization's rules. We are no longer limited by your laws or your morals or your sense of honor." Lisa smiled, and every alien leader who saw it felt ice in their veins. The war you won 15 years ago, that was just the beginning. What comes next will not be a war. It will be a haunting. We are the ghosts in your machines, the shadows in your space, the whispers in your nightmares. The transmission ended with coordinates, the location of every missing alien ship, every sabotaged mining operation, every mysterious accident from the past year. The message was clear. We did all of this. And this is just what we wanted you to know about. Across the galaxy, alien leaders stared at their screens in growing horror. They had thought the human problem was solved. Instead, they had created something much worse. They had created humanity's ghost fleet, and the ghosts were angry. 10 years had passed since Admiral Lisa Kane's message. 10 years of fear, suspicion, and death from the shadows. The great alliance that had destroyed humanity was falling apart. Counselor Vex of the Threx floated in his gas-filled chamber, reading reports that made his tentacles writhe with anxiety. Another trade convoy had been lost. The 5th one this month. The cargo ships had simply vanished between star systems, leaving no trace except scattered debris that looked like engine failures. But Counselor Vex knew better. The debris patterns were too perfect, the timing too convenient. The humans were still out there, still hunting. "Sir," his aide bubbled through the gas mixture. "The Vrak are demanding answers. They say our intelligence sharing has been compromised." Vex's tentacles curled in frustration. The Vrak always blamed others for their problems. What do they want now? They want to know how the humans knew about the secret supply route to their homeworld. They say only we had those coordinates. Vex felt a chill run through his gas-filled body. The Vrak were right. Only the Threx Navigation Guild had known about that route, but the humans had known too. Somehow, across the galaxy, Marshal Torn of the Vrak Empire faced similar questions. His scaled face was twisted with anger as he studied the holographic display showing the latest disaster. The entire Vrak battle group had been ambushed near the Orion sector. All 12 ships destroyed. "How did they know where to find us?" Marshal Torn demanded. His intelligence officer shuffled nervously. "Sir, the flight plan was only shared with our Nexari allies. Perhaps there was a leak in their systems. Or perhaps," Marshal Torn said slowly, "the Nexari are working with the human ghosts." The accusation hung in the air like poison. For 25 years, the Vrak and Nexari had been allies. They had fought side by side against humanity. But now doubt crept into every conversation, every shared mission, every joint operation. Dr. Yila felt the suspicion too. Her own people, the Nexari, were starting to question her research into human behavior. Some whispered that she knew too much about human tactics. Others suggested she had been in contact with the remnant. "They're tearing us apart," she said to her assistant during a private meeting in her laboratory. "The humans don't even need to attack us directly anymore. They just need to make us suspicious of each other." Her assistant, a young Nexari named Call, looked confused. "But surely the Alliance is strong enough to withstand some setbacks." Dr. Yila activated a holographic display showing the past 10 years of incidents. Red dots marked every attack, every sabotage, every mysterious accident. The pattern was clear once you knew how to look for it. "Look at the timing," she said. "Every attack happens right after a joint operation between two Alliance species. The humans attack Vrak ships after they meet with us. They sabotage our mining operations after we share data with the Threx. They're not just hurting us physically, they're destroying our trust." Cole stared at the display with growing understanding. "They're using our cooperation against us." "Exactly. And it's working." The breaking point came during a routine diplomatic meeting. The Nexari homeworld's orbital defense platforms were scheduled for a routine maintenance shutdown. The timing had been carefully coordinated with the Vrak, who were sending a diplomatic fleet to sign a new trade agreement. But when the Vrak ships arrived, the defense platforms didn't shut down. Instead, they powered up to maximum strength and aimed their weapons at the diplomatic fleet. For 17 terrifying minutes, Vrak warships faced Nexari defense guns across the vacuum of space. Both sides demanded explanations. Both sides prepared for battle. The crisis was resolved when technicians discovered the problem. A computer virus had infected the defense systems. A virus that made the platforms interpret friendly signals as enemy ones. The same type of virus that had been plaguing alien systems for years. But the damage was done. The Vrak accused the Nexari of trying to destroy their diplomatic mission. The Nexari accused the Vrak of planning a sneak attack on their homeworld. Trust, built over decades, crumbled in hours. Within a month, the Vrak withdrew from all joint operations with the Nexari. The Threx followed, claiming they could no longer trust either species to keep shared intelligence secure. The Great Alliance began to fracture. In a hidden asteroid base, General David Cross watched the alien news feeds with satisfaction. Around him, 50 humans worked at computer stations, monitoring alien communications across the galaxy. The Vrak just canceled their patrol agreement with the Nexari, reported Captain Maya Clark, one of his senior officers. "That opens up 12 star systems for our operations." "And the Threx?" Cross asked. "They're pulling back to their core worlds. They don't trust anyone anymore." Cross smiled grimly. "Good. Fear makes them weak. Division makes them vulnerable." Maya looked up from her station. "Sir, we have another opportunity. The Nexari are moving a major supply convoy through the Kepler system tomorrow. No escort because they don't trust the Vrak to provide protection." "The Kepler system?" Cross's expression darkened. "Where our station used to be?" "Yes, sir." Cross was quiet for a long moment. Kepler Station had been his home for 10 years before the war. He had friends buried in that wreckage. Family members who died in the final battle. "Prepare a strike team," he said finally. "But this one is different. This one sends a message." The attack on the Nexari convoy was unlike anything the humans had done before. Instead of simply destroying the ships, they captured them. The crews were taken prisoner, the cargo seized, and the ships themselves were modified. Then the humans did something that chilled the galaxy to its core. They returned the ships. But they had been changed. The hulls were painted with images from the battle of Kepler Station, pictures of human children who had died in the attack, names of human colonies that no longer existed. And in the center of each ship, written in letters 10 meters tall, was a single word. Remember. The Nexari crews were found alive but traumatized. They told stories of being held in chambers that played recordings of human voices, children crying for their parents, soldiers giving final messages to families they would never see again. The last words of Captain Marcus Reed before Kepler Station died. "They didn't hurt us," one crew member reported, "but they made us listen. For hours. They made us hear what they went through. The psychological impact was devastating. Across the galaxy, alien species began to understand what they had really done 25 years ago. They hadn't just won a war. They had committed genocide, and the survivors had been listening to every moment of their victory celebrations ever since. Dr. Yila received a personal message that night. It appeared on her private computer, bypassing all security systems. The message was simple. We know you studied us, Dr. Yila. We studied you too. Keep watching, keep learning. Soon you will understand what you created. But it was Counselor Vex who received the most chilling communication. His personal gas chamber filled with human voices, dozens of them, speaking in unison. You thought you were civilized. You thought you were better than us. But when you decided we should not exist, you became exactly what you feared. The only difference is that we admit what we are. The voices faded, leaving Vex alone in his chamber, trembling in his protective gas. Outside his window, space looked different now, darker, more threatening. Every shadow could hide a human ship. Every asteroid could contain a human base. The galaxy had become a haunted place. Marshal Torn called an emergency meeting of the remaining Alliance leaders. Representatives from 12 species gathered on the neutral world of Haven, their faces showing fear and exhaustion. We cannot continue like this, Marshal Torn announced. The humans are destroying us without fighting a single major battle. Our people are afraid to travel. Our traders refuse to use shipping routes. Our colonies are demanding protection we cannot provide. What do you propose? Asked Ambassador Rill of the Harmony species. Marshal Torn's scales darkened with shame. Negotiation. We must contact the humans and find a way to end this. The room fell silent. For 25 years, these species had refused to acknowledge that any humans remained alive. Now they were admitting not only that humans survived, but that those humans were winning. And what do we offer them? Dr. Yila asked quietly. Marshal, Torn looked around the room at the faces of beings who had once considered themselves the masters of the galaxy. Whatever they want, he said, before they decide we shouldn't exist either. In the darkness between stars, Admiral Lisa Kane received word of the aliens' decision to negotiate. She stood in the command center of humanity's greatest secret, a massive ship built from the wreckage of Kepler Station, powered by rage and fueled by the determination of a species that refused to die. They want to talk, reported Colonel Ann. Foster Lisa nodded slowly. Then we'll talk, but not as equals, not as the humans they remember. We'll talk as what they made us become. She looked out at the stars where human ships moved like predators through the night. Send them our terms, she said. It's time they learned what justice looks like when it comes from the grave. The meeting place was chosen carefully. Neutral space far from any homeworld where ancient laws said no weapons could be fired. Ambassador Zill of the Harmony species had suggested it. The Harmony were the only race that had never fought humans directly. They were peacekeepers, diplomats, the ones who tried to solve problems with words instead of weapons. Ambassador Zill floated in his ship's command chamber, his pale blue skin shimmering with nervous energy. Beside him, Fleet Commander Rex of the old Galactic Council checked his instruments for the 100th time. Are you sure they'll come? Rex asked. His voice carried the weight of someone who had seen too much war. They'll come, Zill replied. The question is what they've become. The answer arrived like a shadow sliding across the stars. The human ship appeared without warning, its stealth systems better than anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was massive, larger than any vessel the aliens remembered humans building. Its hull was black as space itself, covered in what looked like the wreckage of 1,000 destroyed ships. By the void, Rex whispered. What is that thing? The ship's communication system crackled to life. The voice that spoke was female, calm, and absolutely terrifying in its certainty. This is General Maya Clark of the Human Remnant. We will meet. On your vessel in 1 hour. Come alone. Bring no weapons. Attempt no tricks. We are far beyond your ability to deceive or destroy. Ambassador Zill had studied human psychology for years, trying to understand what made them so different from other species. But the being that walked onto his ship bore little resemblance to the humans in his files. General Maya Clark looked human, but wrong somehow. Her skin was pale from years in space. Her eyes were the color of deep vacuum, black with tiny points of light, like stars seen from very far away. She moved with the controlled grace of a predator, and when she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had learned to command through absolute competence. General Clark, Ambassador Zill began using his most diplomatic tone. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I hope we can find a peaceful solution to our current difficulties. Maya's star-filled eyes focused on him. Our current difficulties? Is that what you call 30 years of war and genocide? Fleet Commander Rex shifted uncomfortably. The war ended 25 years ago. Humanity was defeated. The galaxy moved on. Maya smiled, and the expression was more frightening than any weapon. The war ended. Commander, the war has barely begun, she gestured to the wall screen, which suddenly displayed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked locations across hundreds of star systems. These are human bases, Maya said casually. All of them built in the last 25 years. All of them invisible to your sensors. All of them armed with weapons your civilized minds couldn't imagine. Ambassador Zill stared at the map in horror. There were thousands of red dots. Humans weren't just surviving. They were everywhere. How? Rex demanded. Our scans showed no human populations. Our surveys confirmed their extinction. Because you looked for the humans you remembered, Maya explained. City builders, planet colonizers, people who needed atmosphere and gravity, and sunlight. But you killed those humans. What survived learned to live in the void. We learned to breathe recycled air and eat synthetic food and find warmth in the hearts of asteroids. She touched the map, and new information appeared. Supply routes, communication networks, trade agreements, all marked with human influence. For 25 years, we have been inside your civilization like a virus in a body. We know everything about you, how you think, how you fight, how you live, how you love, how you fear. What do you want? Ambassador Zill asked quietly. Maya turned those terrible star eyes on him. What do we want? We want what any extinct species wants, Ambassador. We want justice. Rex leaned forward. Name your terms. Territory, resources, reparations. We can negotiate. Negotiate? Maya's laugh was like ice cracking. Commander, you don't understand your situation. This isn't a negotiation. This is a sentencing. The ship's lights dimmed, and the wall screens came alive with images. Burning human colonies, children crying in the ruins of cities. The final moments of Kepler Station. Thousands of human voices crying out in pain and terror as their worlds died. You see, we've had 25 years to think about what you did to us, Maya continued. Not just the killing, that we could forgive. War is war. But you tried to erase us. You wanted humanity to never have existed. You wanted our children forgotten, our achievements ignored, our very name removed from galactic history. More images flashed across the screens. Alien celebrations after the war, victory parades, monuments built on human graves, children's textbooks that mentioned humanity only as a footnote, a failed species that couldn't adapt to civilized space. So we decided to return the favor, Maya said. We're going to erase you. Ambassador Zill felt his diplomatic training crumble. You can't mean genocide. That would make you no better than you, Maya interrupted. Ambassador, we passed no better than you about 20 years ago. We've moved far beyond your moral limitations. Rex stood up, his military instincts finally overcoming his shock. You're talking about destroying entire civilizations. Billions of innocent lives. Maya looked at him with something that might have been pity. Innocent? Commander, every species in your alliance voted to eliminate humanity. Every government signed the genocide treaty. Every citizen celebrated our destruction. Where exactly are these innocents you speak of? She gestured to the screens again, and they showed something that made both aliens step backward. Battle plans, invasion routes, target lists, the complete infrastructure of galactic civilization, marked for systematic destruction. But we're not monsters, Maya continued in that terrifyingly calm voice. We're giving you a choice. The same choice you gave us 30 years ago. What choice? Zill whispered. Exile. Your civilizations will be dissolved. Your governments will surrender. Your species will be relocated to dead worlds at the edge of the galaxy. You'll have just enough resources to survive, but not enough to threaten anyone ever again. Rex's face went pale. Those worlds, they have no atmosphere, no water, no way to sustain large populations. I know, Maya said. We've lived on them for 25 years. Some of you might adapt. Most won't. Natural selection in action. And if we refuse? Ambassador Zill asked. Maya's smile returned, colder than before. Then we demonstrate why the galaxy learned to whisper humanity's name. She touched a control on her wrist, and the wall screens showed 17 different star systems simultaneously. In each one, massive explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. Space stations, industrial complexes, military bases, all destroyed in perfect coordination. That was a demonstration, Maya said while the aliens watched their civilization burn. 17 targets across the galaxy, hit simultaneously. No warning, no chance to defend, no survivors. She let the images burn into their memories before, continuing. We could have hit 17 homeworlds just as easily. We could have killed 17 billion beings in the same moment. We chose not to. This time. Fleet Commander Rex sank into his chair, the full weight of humanity's capabilities finally hitting him. How many ships do you have? How many weapons? Enough, Maya said simply. We've had 25 years to prepare. We've built our fleet from the bones of your victims. We've armed ourselves with your own technology, improved beyond your recognition. We've become what you always said we were, too dangerous to exist in civilized space. Ambassador Zill made one last desperate attempt at diplomacy. Surely we can find another way, some form of coexistence, some path to peace. Maya looked at him for a long moment, and for just an instant, he saw something human in those star-filled eyes. Pain. Loss. The echo of someone who had once believed in peace. Ambassador, she said softly. Peace was what we asked for 30 years ago. Coexistence was what we offered at Kepler Station. You chose war instead. You chose genocide instead. You made us into weapons and then acted surprised when we learned to cut. The human emotion vanished, replaced by the cold certainty of a judge pronouncing sentence. You have 72 hours to begin evacuation procedures. Any military resistance will be met with complete annihilation. Any attempt to hide populations will result in the sterilization of entire star systems. Any species that fails to comply will be eliminated. Maya turned toward the door, then paused. Oh, an ambassador? Don't think about running to the outer rim or trying to hide in unexplored space. We've been mapping the galaxy for 25 years. We know where you are. We know where you'll go. We know everything. She left them with one final image on the screens. A vast human fleet emerging from hyperspace around a dozen worlds simultaneously. Ships that looked like nightmares, built from the wreckage of dead civilizations and powered by the fury of the extinct. After she was gone, Ambassador Zill and Fleet Commander Rex sat in stunned silence. They're not the same species, Rex said finally. The humans who died at Kepler Station, they were fighters, yes, warriors, but they were still civilized, still moral. This creature, what did we create? Ambassador Zill looked at the tactical displays showing the scope of human preparation. 25 years of planning, 25 years of building, 25 years of becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. We created our executioners, he said quietly. And we taught them to be very, very good at their job. Outside, the ship. The human vessel vanished back into the darkness between stars, carrying with it the fate of a galaxy that had learned too late the true cost of trying to erase humanity from existence. 25 years had passed since General Maya Clark delivered humanity's ultimatum. The galaxy looked very different now. Dr. Kell of the Archive Corps floated through the ruins of what used to be the Nexari capital. Her job was to record history, to preserve the memory of civilizations for future generations. But this was a history no one wanted to remember. The Great Evacuation had taken 3 years. Some species complied immediately, moving their populations to the dead worlds at the galaxy's edge. Others tried to resist. Those civilizations were now archaeological sites, their cities turned to glass by human weapons that defied physics. The Vrak had been the last to surrender. Marshal Torn had declared that his people would rather die fighting than live in exile. The humans granted his wish. The Vrak homeworld was now a monument to the price of defiance, a perfectly spherical crater where a planet used to be. "Tell me about the humans," Dr. Kell said to her interview subject. Admiral Peter Hall was one of the last original members of the remnant still alive. His hair was white now, his face marked by decades of living in the void between stars. But his eyes still held the cold fire that had burned in human hearts for 50 years. "What do you want to know?" Peter asked. "Everything," Dr. Kell replied. "The official records are incomplete. Most were destroyed during the evacuation. We only have fragments, stories, legends." Peter laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Legends? Is that what we've become? Your species single-handedly brought down the greatest alliance in galactic history," Dr. Kell said. "You forced entire civilizations into exile using nothing but fear and superior tactics. Children across the galaxy learn your names in school. How is that not legendary?" Peter was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the stars through the observation deck window. Somewhere out there, human ships still patrolled the empty space that used to be home to billions of beings. "Do you know what we called ourselves back then?" he asked. "Before the war, before everything changed." "Humans," Dr. Kell said. "Before that," Peter corrected. "We called ourselves people, just people. We had hopes and dreams and families. We built cities and wrote poetry and fell in love. We were ordinary." He turned to face her, and Dr. Kell saw something in his expression that chilled her. "The beings you call legendary? They died at Kepler Station 50 years ago. What survived was something else. Something your galaxy created when it decided we shouldn't exist." Dr. Kell's recording device captured every word, every pause, every breath. This would be one of the last interviews with an original remnant member. Soon they would all be gone, replaced by the children they had raised in the darkness between worlds. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "What your species became?" Peter considered the question carefully. "Do you regret surviving when someone tries to kill you? Do you regret adapting when your environment changes? We became what we needed to become. But the cost was paid 50 years ago," Peter interrupted. "When your people decided that genocide was an acceptable solution to their fears. Everything that happened after was just the consequence of that choice." Dr. Kell had interviewed hundreds of survivors from dozens of species. They all told similar stories. The sudden appearance of human fleets in their skies. The calm voices offering evacuation or extinction. The terrifying efficiency with which entire civilizations were dismantled and relocated. But there were other stories too. Stranger ones. On the dead world of Xerion Prime, where the Nexari had been relocated, something unexpected was happening. The young Nexari were changing. They no longer valued beauty and perfection above all else. Instead, they prized survival and adaptability. They had learned to live without their crystal cities and perfect gardens. They built tools from scrap metal and found water in places their elders said was impossible. Most shocking of all, they had begun to fight back against the harsh conditions of their new world. "They're becoming like humans," reported Counselor Nex, one of the surviving Nexari leaders. "My own daughter speaks of individual rights over collective harmony. She says our old ways were weak. She says the humans were right to punish us." Similar changes were happening across the exile worlds. Young Vrak rejected their ancestors' rigid military discipline in favor of flexible tactics. Threk's children learned to work alone instead of in gas-filled collectives. The exile species were adapting, but not in ways their leaders expected. They were adapting by becoming more human. The virus spread beyond the exile worlds. On planets that had never seen war, alien children asked questions their parents couldn't answer. Why should individuals sacrifice for the collective? Why should the weak be protected if they couldn't protect themselves? Why should anyone obey leaders who couldn't guarantee their safety? Dr. Kell discovered the pattern while researching her historical archive. She was analyzing cultural shifts across the galaxy when she noticed the changes all pointed in the same direction. Toward individual responsibility, toward personal freedom, toward the idea that sometimes violence was the only answer to those who would destroy you. They're teaching the galaxy to think like humans, she told her research partner, Dr. Minnie, of the Harmony species. Dr. Min shook his head. Impossible. The humans barely interact with other species anymore. They stay in their ships, patrolling empty space. How could they be influencing alien cultures? Because they don't need to teach it directly, Dr. Kell explained. The lesson is written in every exile world, every destroyed fleet, every civilization that tried to resist and failed. The galaxy learned that individual determination can overcome any collective force, that a small group willing to sacrifice everything can defeat an empire, that sometimes the right kind of violence is the only way to preserve what you love. She pulled up images from across the galaxy. Young aliens building weapons instead of art. Children learning to fight before they learned to read. Entire cultures shifting away from collective harmony toward individual strength. They didn't just defeat us, Dr. Kell continued. They changed us, made us more like them. And now their philosophy is spreading like wildfire across every species that survived their judgment. On a hidden station deep in the Andromeda approach, Admiral Lisa Kane watched the cultural reports with something that might have been satisfaction. She was old now, over 90 years by human reckoning, but she had lived to see humanity's ultimate victory. Around her, the new generation of humans prepared for their own futures. These children had never known planets or blue skies. They were born in the void and raised on stories of the Great War. They looked at the stars not with wonder but with the calculating gaze of apex predators surveying their territory. "Ma'am," reported Captain Sarah Wells, one of the younger officers, "we're receiving reports of conflict on 17 different worlds. The exile species are fighting among themselves. Some want to return to their old ways. Others want to embrace the new philosophy." Lisa nodded. It was happening exactly as they had predicted. The exile species were learning the most important human lesson of all, that sometimes you had to fight to remain free. "And our response?" Captain Wells asked. "Nothing," Lisa replied. "Let them fight. Let them learn. Let them become what they need to become to survive." She looked out at the stars, where human ships moved like ghosts through the darkness. The galaxy was changing, shaped by the choices made 50 years ago. The old civilizations that had valued peace over freedom, collective harmony over individual rights, were dying. In their place, something new was being born. "Admiral," Captain Wells said quietly, "some of the younger crew are asking questions. They want to know if we'll ever go home, if we'll ever build cities again, if we'll ever be more than guardians of empty space." Lisa smiled, remembering a time when she had asked similar questions, before Kepler Station, before the war that changed everything. "Home isn't a place, Sarah," she said. "Home is an idea. The idea that you have the right to exist, the right to defend yourself, the right to say no to those who would erase you from history." She gestured to the tactical displays showing the galaxy-wide cultural shifts. "And that idea, it's everywhere now. In every species that learned to fight instead of submit. In every child who chooses personal freedom over collective safety. In every being who refuses to kneel because someone stronger demands it." Lisa's eyes held the same cold fire that had burned in human hearts for 50 years. "We didn't just survive, Sarah. We won. Not by conquering territory or claiming resources, but by making the entire galaxy think like us. Every species that refuses to be victims. Every civilization that chooses to fight instead of surrender. Every child who learns that individual will can overcome any collective force. She paused, watching a new generation of humans prepare for whatever came next. They all carry a piece of humanity now, and that's a victory that can never be taken away. In the depths of space, the whisper that had once spoken of humanity's extinction now carried a different message. It spoke of a species that refused to die, of ideas that were stronger than armies, of the children of exile who had learned to turn the galaxy's own fears against itself. The whisper had become legend. And legends, as every species was learning, were very hard to kill. Epilogue. On a distant world at the galaxy's edge, an alien child asked her grandmother about the old stories. Stories of the time before, when the galaxy was ruled by councils and committees and collective decisions. "What happened to all of that, grandmother?" the child asked. The old being looked up at the stars, where human ships still moved through, the darkness like patient predators. "The humans happened, little one," she said. "They taught us that some things are worth fighting for, that freedom is more important than safety, that sometimes to preserve what you love, you have to become something your enemies fear." The child looked up at those same stars and felt something stirring in her young heart. A desire for independence, a refusal to submit, a burning need to protect what was hers. Humanity's greatest victory was complete. They had taught the galaxy to be human. The sky over Lyra 6 turned a dark purple as the sun set behind the jagged mountains. Elaine Winters stood at the viewport in the colony's main control room, watching the last light fade. Her face showed no emotion, but her hand gripped the edge of the console so hard her knuckles turned white. "Administrator Winters," a voice called from behind her. She turned to see Andrew Nichols, his thin face looking even more worn than usual. The communications specialist had dark circles under his eyes from too many nights trying to fix their failing equipment. "We lost contact with the last relay station," Andrew said. His voice was flat, as if he had used up all his worry days ago. "We can't reach anyone in the Confederation now." Elaine nodded slowly. She had been expecting this news. "Thank you, Andrew. Get some rest. There's nothing more we can do tonight." After Andrew left, Elaine looked back at the darkening sky. The colony on Lyra 6 had never been large, just 400 people sent to mine rare minerals for the Galactic Confederation. They were supposed to be resupplied every 3 months. The last ship had come 6 months ago. The door slid open again and Peter Ramirez walked in. The colony's head engineer had grease stains on his hands and dirt on his face. He had been working non-stop to keep the power systems running. "I checked the message again," Peter said. "They really meant it. The Confederation is pulling out of this entire sector. They're not coming back." "They can't just abandon us," Elaine said, but her voice lacked conviction. The message had arrived 2 weeks ago. The Galactic Confederation was facing attacks from the Tarvos Empire on its core worlds. All outer colonies were being abandoned to save resources. "They already did," Peter replied. He ran a hand through his dark hair. "And I found something else today. The last supply ship didn't just bring fewer supplies. They removed parts from our long-range transmitter. They damaged it on purpose." Elaine's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure they never planned to come back for us. They didn't want us calling for help and causing problems with the Tarvos." Elaine turned back to the viewport. The first stars were appearing in the night sky. Somewhere out there, the civilization that had sent them to this rock was fighting for its survival and had decided the people of Lyra 6 weren't worth saving. "How long can we last?" she asked. Peter shrugged. "The greenhouse is producing food, but not enough. Dr. Frost says we're already seeing early signs of nutrient deficiencies. Power is stable for now. Water recycling is working, but the filters need replacing soon. And we have no way to call for help," Elaine said. "Not with standard equipment," Peter admitted. "But there's the emergency beacon." They both fell silent. The emergency beacon was powerful enough to reach distant systems, but it had been forbidden by the Confederation. Using it might attract help, or it might attract the Tarvos Empire. Call a colony council meeting for tomorrow morning, Elaine said after a long pause. Everyone needs to know the truth. The next morning, all 20 members of the colony council gathered in the meeting room. Dr. Samantha Frost sat next to Peter, her medical data pad in front of her. Kelly Bradshaw, the head of security, stood by the door, her face grim. The others, section leaders, specialists, and elected representatives, filled the remaining seats. Elaine stood at the front of the room. "I'll be direct," she said. "The Confederation has abandoned us. They're not coming back." The room erupted in voices. Some people shouted in anger, others asked questions all at once. Kelly whistled sharply, bringing silence back to the room. "We've known supplies were running short," Elaine continued. "Now we know why. The Confederation is at war with the Tarvos Empire. They've pulled back to their core systems." "What about our families back home?" someone asked. "We don't know," Elaine admitted. "We've lost all contact." Dr. Frost stood up. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and a calm manner that people trusted. "I need to share my medical assessment," she said. "At current supply levels, we'll start seeing serious health issues within 3 months. We need medicines, vitamins, and specialized nutrients that we can't produce here." Mason Griffin, who ran the hydroponics section, nodded in agreement. "The soil here is wrong for many of our crops. We're trying to adapt, but it's not going well." The mood in the room grew darker with each report. Fuel reserves, replacement parts, ammunition for the few weapons they had. Everything was in short supply. "What about the emergency beacon?" Peter finally asked, saying out loud what several were thinking. Kelly shook her head. "The Tarvos would reach us before any help could come." "We don't know that," Peter argued. "There might be independent traders, other human colonies." "The Confederation made it clear," Kelly interrupted. "No one else is supposed to be in this sector. If we light up that beacon, we're announcing our location to everyone, including the Tarvos." The argument went back and forth. Use the beacon and risk attracting enemies. Don't use it and slowly watch the colony die. While they argued, a young technician burst into the room. "Administrator, we have a problem at the North Ridge. The ion storm last night hit the main power relay." Within minutes, the meeting broke up as people rushed to handle the new crisis. Elaine and Peter led a team to the North Ridge, where wind howled around them as they stepped out of their vehicles. The power relay stood on top of a rocky hill, partially melted from an electrical surge. "Can we fix it?" Elaine asked, raising her voice over the wind. Peter examined the damage. "Maybe. We'll need parts from the backup systems." "Do it," Elaine said. She looked at the dark clouds gathering on the horizon. Another storm was coming. By evening, the colony's lights were flickering as Peter and his team worked to reroute power. In the medical center, Dr. Frost was treating 3 engineers who had been burned during the repairs. In the greenhouse, Mason desperately tried to save plants dying from lack of light. As night fell, Elaine called an emergency session with just the senior staff. "We need to make a decision about the beacon," she said. "We can't keep going like this." Andrew, who rarely spoke at meetings, cleared his throat. "There's something else you should know. Before we lost contact completely, I picked up fragments of transmissions. Other colonies in nearby sectors were also abandoned. Some tried to evacuate. None made it." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They were truly alone. "Say we activate the beacon," Peter said finally. "Yes, it's a risk, but slowly starving to death isn't a choice I want to make." Elaine looked around the room. One by one, the others nodded in agreement. "Put it to a full colony vote tomorrow," Dr. Frost suggested. "Everyone should have a say in this." "Agreed," Elaine said. "But first, let's survive the night." As she walked back to the control room, Elaine looked up at the alien stars. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel the fear she had been holding back. Everyone had left them behind. Now their only hope was to call into the darkness and pray that whoever answered wasn't coming to destroy what little they had left. 6 months had passed since the colony voted to activate the emergency beacon. 6 long months of waiting, watching the sky, and trying to survive. Winter had come to Lyra 6, a harsh season that brought freezing winds and ice storms. Inside the colony's main hall, most of the 400 colonists huddled together. The heating system worked only at half power now. People wore layers of clothing and shared body heat to stay warm. Elaine Winters moved among the colonists, stopping to check on a young mother with 2 small children. The children's faces were thin, their eyes too large. Everyone was on reduced rations. "How are they doing?" Elaine asked softly. "They're strong," the mother said, though her own face was pale and drawn. "We all are." Elaine nodded and continued through the hall. She saw Peter Ramirez near the entrance, talking with Kelly Bradshaw. Peter had lost weight, his clothes hanging loose on his frame. Kelly still stood straight and alert, but even she looked tired. "Any sign of the patrol?" Elaine asked as she joined them. Kelly shook her head. "Not yet. They should be back soon." "And the sensors?" Elaine turned to Peter. "Still working, though the range is limited. The last storm damaged the outer array." Elaine fought back the familiar feeling of despair. When they had activated the beacon, they had hoped for rescue within weeks. Now, half a year later, they were running out of hope along with everything else. Andrew Nichols burst through the door, letting in a blast of cold air. Snow dusted his coat, and his breath came in white puffs. "Peter, Elaine, come quick!" They followed him to the communications room. Andrew had set up a makeshift scanning station using parts from other systems. He pointed to a screen where several blinking dots moved across the display. "Ships," he said. "At least 3 of them heading toward Lyra 6. Elaine felt her heart race. "Confederation?" Andrew shook his head. "The signal patterns don't match. They're not broadcasting any identification." "Tarvos?" Kelly asked, her hand moving to the stunner at her hip. "Maybe." Andrew adjusted some controls. "They'll reach orbit in about 6 hours. Elaine took a deep breath. "Kelly, gather your security team. Peter, we need to secure the critical systems. Andrew, keep monitoring those ships. I'll inform Dr. Frost and the Council." As they moved to carry out her orders, Elaine paused by the viewport. The sky was clear for once, stars shining coldly above the frozen landscape. Their call for help had been answered, but by whom? In the medical center, Dr. Frost was treating a young man with frostbite. She looked up as Elaine entered. "Ships are coming," Elaine said simply. Samantha Frost's hands paused for just a moment before continuing to wrap a bandage. "How long do we have?" 6 hours. Maybe less. I'll prepare for casualties." Dr. Frost's voice was calm, but her eyes showed her fear. "The medical supplies are almost gone. If there's fighting..." She didn't need to finish the thought. They both knew. "There's something else," Elaine said. "The illness in Section 3, have you made any progress?" Dr. Frost shook her head. 10 cases now. Fever, confusion, skin lesions. Nothing in our database matches it, and it's spreading. Another problem they couldn't solve. Elaine thanked the doctor and continued to the greenhouse where Mason Griffin was working. The large glass structure was the warmest place in the colony, though many plants were failing despite Mason's best efforts. "I heard," Mason said when she entered. "Ships are coming." He was a short man with strong hands and a gentle way about him. "Is it rescue or trouble?" "We don't know yet," Elaine admitted. "But we need to prepare for the worst." "Can you secure the seed vault?" Mason nodded. "I've been keeping our most important seeds separate just in case." He hesitated. "There's, something you should see." He led her to the back of the greenhouse where a curtain separated a small area from the rest. Behind it, strange plants with purple stems and silver leaves grew in neat rows. "What are these?" Elaine asked. "Native plants. I found them growing. Near the South Ridge, they're edible. I tested them myself. And they grow fast even in our soil." For the first time in months, Elaine felt a spark of hope. "This could help with our food shortage." Mason smiled slightly. "There's more. I've seen them. The natives." Elaine stared at him. The survey team said this planet had no intelligent life. They were wrong, or they lied. Mason lowered his voice. They're shy but curious. They look a bit like tall lizards walking on two legs. They've been watching us from the forest edge. Before Elaine could respond, Kelly's voice came through her communicator. Administrator, the patrol is back. They've brought someone with them. In the security office, a strange creature sat hunched on a bench. It was nearly 2 meters tall, with green-gray skin, a long neck, and large yellow eyes. Its hands had 3 long fingers with sharp claws. It wore simple clothing made from woven plant fibers. They found it watching them from the ridge, Kelly explained. It didn't resist when they approached. The creature looked at Elaine, then made a series of clicking sounds with its tongue. It's been doing that since they brought it in, Kelly said. We think it's trying to talk to us. Elaine approached slowly and knelt in front of the creature. Hello, she said. My name is Elaine. The creature studied her, then pointed to itself and made a sound like Varix. Varix, Elaine repeated. Are there more like you? The creature, Varix, nodded, then held up 4 fingers, then made a sweeping gesture. 4 groups? 4 colonies? Elaine guessed. Varix nodded again, then pointed up at the ceiling and made a distressed sound. The ships, Kelly murmured. It knows about the ships. Peter entered the room, stopping short when he saw the alien. We have a problem, he said after a moment. The long-range scanner is picking up energy signatures. The ships in orbit are charging weapons. Varix suddenly stood, startling everyone. It made urgent clicking sounds and pantomimed running, then pointed to the wall map of the colony. I think it wants to show us something, Elaine said. Kelly frowned. We can't trust it. We don't know what it wants. We don't have many options right now, Elaine countered. She turned to Varix. Show us. With armed guards following, they allowed Varix to lead them through the colony and outside to a small hill about half a kilometer away. Despite the bitter cold, the alien moved with purpose, stopping at what looked like a pile of rocks. It pushed at one rock, and to everyone's surprise, the entire formation shifted, revealing a tunnel entrance. Underground tunnels, Peter whispered. They must extend throughout the area. Varix made an inviting gesture, pointing into the tunnel, then at the colonists. It wants us to hide, Elaine realized. It's offering shelter, as if to emphasize the urgency. A distant rumble shook the ground. They looked up to see flashes of light in the sky, weapons fire. The ships are attacking each other, Peter said, studying his portable scanner. Multiple vessels engaged in combat. Elaine made a quick decision. Kelly, start evacuating the most vulnerable colonists to these tunnels. Peter, grab any portable equipment we can't lose. Andrew needs to keep monitoring those ships. As they hurried back to the colony, more explosions lit up the darkening sky. Someone was fighting in orbit around Lyra 6 and the colonists were caught in the middle. Who do you think they are? Peter asked as they ran. I don't know, Elaine replied. But someone up there is fighting someone else, and right now that's our only hope. The tunnels beneath Lyra 6 were surprisingly warm. Varix led Elaine and a group of colonists through a network of passages that seemed to extend for kilometers in all directions. The walls glowed with a soft blue light from some kind of bioluminescent moss. How long have these been here? Peter asked, running his hand along a perfectly smooth section of wall. Varix made a series of gestures that seemed to indicate a very long time. The alien pointed to markings on the wall, symbols carved into the stone that looked ancient. Dr. Frost examined the carvings. These could be thousands of years old, she said. Maybe the Lyrans had a more advanced civilization in the past. More colonists arrived in small groups guided by Kelly's security team. The children seemed less afraid of the tunnels than the adults. Some even approached Varix with curiosity rather than fear. Andrew is still at the communications center, Kelly reported to Elaine. He refused to leave. Says someone needs to monitor what's happening up there. Elaine wasn't surprised. Andrew had always been dedicated to his work. What's the latest? The battle in orbit is still going on, Kelly said. At least 2 ships have been destroyed, Andrew thinks one of the remaining vessels is trying to land. Loud boom echoed through the tunnels, causing dust to fall from the ceiling. The ground shook. That wasn't in orbit, Peter said. That was on the surface, close. Varix made urgent clicking sounds and motioned for them to move deeper into the tunnels. More Lyrans appeared, emerging from side passages. They were similar to Varix, but with different markings on their skin and various colored cloths wrapped around their bodies. The colonists followed their guides, moving away from the sounds of explosions that continued above. After about 20 minutes, they reached a large chamber where dozens of Lyrans had gathered. The space was warm, lit by the same blue moss, and contained piles of supplies, food, water containers, and what looked like tools. They prepared for this, Dr. Frost observed. They knew trouble was coming. Elaine's communicator crackled. Andrew's voice came through, broken by static. Elaine, ships, humans, not Confederation. Andrew, can you repeat? Elaine adjusted the communicator, trying to get a clearer signal. Earth Alliance, USS Horizon. Captain says, help. The connection cut out. Elaine looked at Peter and Kelly, her eyes wide, with shock. Did he say Earth Alliance? Earth? Kelly frowned. But Earth hasn't been part of interstellar politics for a century. The Confederation cut them off during the isolation policy. Another explosion, closer this time, shook the chamber. Several children cried out in fear. Dr. Frost moved among them, offering comfort. I need to get back to the surface, Elaine decided. If there are humans up there, I need to make contact. It's too dangerous, Kelly argued. We don't know who they are or what they want. If Andrew is right, they came to help us, Elaine said. I'll take Peter and 2 security officers. The rest of you stay here where it's safe. Varix made a series of urgent clicks and pointed at itself, then at Elaine. I think it wants to come with us, Peter said. Elaine nodded. Good. We might need a guide to get back. With Varix leading the way, they took a different tunnel that led up toward the surface. As they got closer, they could hear the sounds of weapons fire and shouting. They emerged from a tunnel opening hidden behind a stand of tall purple plants. The scene in front of them was chaos. 2 small ships had landed near the colony's main buildings. People in unfamiliar uniforms were exchanging fire with what could only be Tarvo soldiers, tall, thin beings in black armor with elongated heads and 4 arms. Get down! Peter pulled Elaine behind a rock as energy blasts hit the ground near them. From their hiding place, they watched as the battle unfolded. The unknown soldiers were well-trained and disciplined, slowly pushing the Tarvos forces back from the colony buildings. Look at their uniforms, Kelly whispered. The insignia, that's an Earth symbol. Old Earth. From before the Confederation. Soldier spotted them and raised a weapon, then lowered it when he saw they were human. He sprinted to their position, sliding into cover beside them. His helmet visor lifted to reveal a young man's face. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper. Earth Alliance, he said, breathing hard. Are you from the colony? I'm Administrator Elaine Winters, Elaine replied, still shocked to be speaking with someone from Earth. This is my engineer Peter Ramirez and Security Chief Kelly Bradshaw. The lieutenant glanced at Varix with surprise but didn't comment on the alien's presence. Captain Hayes sent us to secure the colony and evacuate civilians. The Tarvos hit us as we were landing. He tapped his helmet communicator. Captain, I've found the colony administrator. A woman's voice came through his communicator. Bring them to the landing zone if it's safe. We need to move quickly. Lieutenant Cooper nodded to Elaine. Can you run? We need to reach our shuttle. With Cooper leading the way, they moved from cover to cover, avoiding the worst of the fighting. Other Earth Alliance soldiers provided covering fire as they crossed open ground. Near the colony's main building, they met more Earth soldiers escorting colonists to a waiting shuttle. Standing by the ramp was a woman with short brown hair and an air of authority that marked her as the captain. Lisa Hayes, captain of the USS Horizon, she said, extending her hand to Elaine. We received your emergency beacon 3 months ago. I'm sorry it took us so long to get here. 3 months? Peter asked in disbelief. The beacon has been active for 6 months. Captain Hayes frowned. The signal was being jammed. We only detected it when we were mapping this sector for potential resources. Another explosion rocked the ground. Captain Hayes steadied herself against the shuttle. We can talk more once we're safe. The Tarvos are calling for reinforcements. Wait, Elaine said. We have hundreds of colonists hiding in underground tunnels, and we have wounded who can't be moved easily. Captain Hayes nodded to her officers. Cooper, take a team and help evacuate. The civilians, Chief Daniels, get the medical team down here. A burly man with a gray beard stepped forward from the shuttle. I'm Chief Engineer Eric Daniels. We're going to need to move fast. Our ship detected a Tarvos battlecruiser entering the system. We have maybe 2 hours before it arrives. Elaine introduced him to Peter. Our colony systems are failing. We've been abandoned for almost a year. Earth was abandoned by the Confederation too, Chief Daniels said grimly. That's why we're out here now, finding our own way forward. Over the next hour, a remarkable operation unfolded. Earth Alliance soldiers moved through the tunnels, helping colonists to the surface. Medical teams treated the wounded. Engineers secured critical equipment. From the colony's command center, now serving as a temporary headquarters, Elaine watched as shuttles flew back and forth between the surface and the USS Horizon in orbit. Andrew Nichols sat at his console, working with an Earth communications officer to coordinate the evacuation. He looked up as Elaine approached. We were right to activate the beacon, he said. Elaine nodded. Yes, we were. On a large display screen, they could see the Horizon in orbit, a sleek vessel unlike the bulky Confederation ships they were used to. It had clearly been in battle, with scorch marks visible on its hull. They fought through the Tarvos scouts to reach us, Andrew explained. Captain Hayes said they weren't going to leave us behind. Not like the Confederation did. For the first time in months, Elaine felt something like hope. They weren't alone anymore. But as another alert sounded, warning of the approaching Tarvos battlecruiser, she knew their rescue had only just begun. The real fight for survival was still ahead. The colony's meeting room had become a command center for the rescue operation. Captain Hayes stood at the main table with Elaine, Peter, and Kelly, looking at maps of the area. Chief Daniels worked nearby with a team of engineers trying to restore power to critical systems. The Tarvos battlecruiser will be here in 90 minutes, Captain Hayes said, pointing to a display showing the approaching ship. The Horizon can't face it alone. We need to complete the evacuation before it arrives. What about the colonists who are too sick to move? Dr. Frost asked as she entered the room. I have 17 patients with the mysterious illness and 5 with injuries from the attack. Captain Hayes nodded to a woman in a white medical uniform. Dr. Rodriguez will help you set up a field hospital on our ship. We have better equipment there. Natalie Rodriguez stepped forward. She was the Horizon's chief medical officer, a tall woman with a calm voice and steady hands. I've seen your initial report on the illness. I'd like to examine the patients right away. As the 2 doctors left, Varix entered with another Loran, an older one with darker skin and intricate patterns on its neck and arms. The older Lyran wore a cloak made of shimmering material that looked almost metallic. This is Elder Varix, Peter explained. Varix brought the Elder to help us. The Elder made a series of complex clicking sounds and gestures. Varix responded, then turned to the humans. They're trying to communicate something important, Elaine said. But we can't understand their language. Natalie, who had paused at the door, returned to the table. I may be able to help with that. On our last mission, we encountered a species with similar communication patterns. She pulled a small device from her pocket and held it up. This is a basic translation matrix. It might help. She activated the device and placed it on the table. The Elder spoke again, and this time rough translations appeared on the device's screen. Danger, sky weapons, ancestors, protection. It's not perfect, Natalie said. But it's a start. The Elder pointed at the map, specifically at a location in the mountains about 20 kilometers from the colony. The translation device showed, old place, Power. Defense. I think they're trying to tell us about some kind of defensive system, Peter said, excitement growing in his voice. Something their ancestors built. Captain Hayes studied the map. If there's a planetary defense system that could help against the Tarvos, we need to find it. She turned to Lieutenant Cooper. Take a team to these coordinates, see what's there. I should go too, Peter said. I understand their technology better than anyone. Captain Hayes nodded. Go, but be quick, time is running out. As Peter left with Cooper and a team of soldiers, Elaine received a message from Andrew at the communications center. The Tarvos are broadcasting a demand for surrender, she reported. They say they know we have Lyrans with us, and they consider that a violation of their territorial claims. Territorial claims? Captain Hayes looked puzzled. The Confederation charts showed this sector as unclaimed space. The Elder made a series of angry clicks. The translation device showed, Tarvos lie, steal worlds, kill people. The Confederation lied to us, Elaine realized. They knew the Tarvos were expanding into this sector. That's why they abandoned us, to avoid conflict. And they deliberately sabotaged your communications so you couldn't call for help, Captain Hayes added grimly. They left you as a buffer between them and the Tarvos. Outside, the evacuation continued. Earth Alliance shuttles carried colonists up to the horizon. Security teams set up defensive positions around the colony buildings, preparing for another Tarvos attack. In the medical center, Dr. Frost and Dr. Rodriguez worked together, treating the sick and injured. Dr. Rodriguez examined samples under a portable scanner. This isn't a natural illness, she said, looking up from her work. These cellular changes are consistent with engineered pathogens. Someone deliberately created this disease. Dr. Frost stared at her in shock. Are you saying someone infected us on purpose? Yes, Dr. Rodriguez confirmed. And I've seen something like this before. The Confederation used similar bioweapons during border disputes. They were designed to look like natural outbreaks. Why would they do that to us? Dr. Frost asked, her voice barely above a whisper. To eliminate witnesses, Dr. Rodriguez said. No survivors means no one to tell what really happened here. At the mountain location, Peter stood with Lieutenant Cooper and his team in front of a massive stone door built into the mountainside. Varix had accompanied them as a guide. These markings are similar to those in the tunnels, Peter said, running his hand over symbols carved into the stone. But I can't figure out how to open it. Varric stepped forward and placed 3 fingers on specific symbols. The ground rumbled and slowly, the stone door slid open to reveal a large chamber filled with equipment unlike anything Peter had seen before. This is incredible, he breathed, stepping inside. This technology is far more advanced than what the Lyrans use now. The chamber contained what looked like control panels, power conduits, and in the center, a large crystalline structure that pulsed with faint blue light. Varix moved to one of the panels and pressed a sequence of controls. The crystalline structure glowed brighter. I think this is what the Elder was talking about, Peter said. A planetary defense system, weapons that could target ships in orbit. Lieutenant Cooper examined the system. But will it work after all this time, and can we figure out how to use it? We have to try, Peter said. He activated his communicator. Elaine, Captain Hayes, we found the defense system, but I'll need help to get it working. Back at the colony, Chief Daniels received the message. I'll go, he told Captain Hayes. My team can finish the power repairs here. As he left with a group of engineers, the alarm sounded. Andrew's voice came over the communication system. The Tarvos battlecruiser has arrived early. It's launched fighters. They're heading for the surface. Captain Hayes immediately contacted her ship. Commander King, deploy our fighters. Protect the evacuation shuttles at all costs. In orbit, the USS Horizon moved to intercept the Tarvos battlecruiser. Though much smaller than the enemy vessel, the Earth ship was fast and maneuverable. Its fighters streaked out from launch bays, meeting the Tarvos fighters in the space between the ships. On the surface, explosions lit up the sky as the battle began. Captain Hayes ordered the remaining colonists to the underground tunnels for protection. The last shuttles took off, carrying the most vulnerable to safety. "We need more time," Elaine said, watching the battle unfold on the display. "We'll give you time," Captain Hayes replied. She turned to her officers. "Prepare ground defenses. We'll hold this position as long as we can." As Earth Alliance soldiers took up defensive positions around the colony, Elaine looked toward the mountains where Peter and the others were working to activate the ancient defense system. Their last best hope now rested in the hands of their engineer and technology left behind by the ancestors of the Lyrans. The Tarvos were coming in force. The question was, could the unlikely alliance of abandoned colonists, Earth rescuers, and native Lyrans find a way to stand against them? The ancient chamber in the mountain hummed with energy as Peter, Chief Daniels, and Lieutenant Cooper worked to activate the defense system. Varix moved among the control panels, showing them how different parts connected. "The power crystals are still functional," Chief Daniels said, amazed. After thousands of years, Peter studied the main control interface. "I think I understand how it works. These symbols represent targeting systems. These are power levels." Lieutenant Cooper kept watch at the entrance, his weapon ready. "Whatever you're going to do it fast. We're getting reports of Tarvos landing craft breaking through." Peter's hands moved across the ancient controls. "The system is designed to target ships in orbit. If we can lock onto the Tarvos battlecruiser." In orbit, the USS Horizon fought a desperate battle against the much larger Tarvos vessel. The Earthship's shields were failing under constant bombardment. "Hull breach on Deck 4, an officer called out on the bridge. "Sealing emergency bulkheads." Captain Hayes gripped the arms of her command chair as the ship shook from another hit. "Keep those fighters off our evacuation shuttles. All power to forward shields." The communications officer turned to her. "Captain, we're receiving a message from the surface. Administrator Winters says they're activating some kind of planetary defense system." "Tell them to hurry," Captain Hayes replied. On the surface, Elaine coordinated the last of the evacuation from the colony's command center. Only essential personnel remained: security teams, medical staff treating those too injured to move, and engineers maintaining critical systems. Kelly Bradshaw entered, her uniform covered in dirt and smoke. "Tarvos ground forces are pushing toward the colony. We've set up defensive positions, but we won't hold them long." Dr. Frost arrived next, helping an injured colonist. "This is the last patient from the medical center. Everyone else is either evacuated or in the tunnels with the Lyrans." Elder Varric stood nearby, watching the tactical displays. The translation device on the table showed, "Must hold, time needed. Ancestors' weapons wake slowly." "The defense system is ancient," Elaine explained to the others. "Peter says it takes time to reach full power." At the mountain facility, Peter and Chief Daniels had managed to bring the main systems online. The central crystal glowed brightly, now pulsing with blue-white light. "Power at 60%, Chief Daniels reported. "Targeting systems coming online." Peter pointed to a display showing orbiting vessels. "There's the Tarvos battlecruiser, and there's the Horizon. We need to be precise with our targeting." Lieutenant Cooper looked over his shoulder. "Can you do it?" "With Varix's help, yes," Peter said. The Lyran stood beside him, guiding his hands on the controls. The chamber shook as explosions sounded outside. Cooper's communicator crackled. "Lieutenant, Tarvos forces approaching your position. They know you're there." Cooper signaled to his team. "Defensive positions, we need to buy them more time." As the soldiers moved to secure the entrance, Peter and Chief Daniels worked faster. The crystal's light grew more intense, casting sharp shadows across the ancient chamber. "Targeting lock established," Peter announced. "Charging main emitter." At the colony, the situation was deteriorating quickly. Tarvos forces had breached the outer perimeter. Earth Alliance soldiers and colony security fought them building by building. Elaine helped Dr. Frost move medical supplies to a shuttle. "This is the last one. Once it's loaded, you need to go." "What about you?" Dr. Frost asked. "I'm staying until everyone else is safe," Elaine said. Suddenly, a bright beam of blue light shot up from the mountains, piercing the clouds and continuing into space. The ground shook with the raw power of it. "They did it," Elaine whispered. "They activated the defense system." In orbit, the beam struck the Tarvos battlecruiser directly amidships. The massive vessel's shields failed immediately. A second later, smaller beams fired from other points on the planet's surface, all converging on the battlecruiser. On the horizon's bridge, the crew watched in amazement as the enemy ship broke apart. The Tarvos battlecruiser is destroyed, NE, officer reported. Their fighters are retreating. Captain Hayes allowed herself a small smile. Send word to the surface. Tell them we're coming in for final evacuation. At the mountain facility, Peter and Chief Daniels watched the displays show the destruction of the Tarvos ship. Lieutenant Cooper and his team had successfully defended the entrance, though several were wounded. It worked, Peter said, relief flooding through him. The system worked. Chief Daniels checked the power levels. But it's draining fast. The crystals can't maintain this level of output. They're too old. As if confirming his words, the central crystal's light began to flicker and dim. The chamber grew darker as ancient systems shut down one by one. Their ancestors built this to save them, Peter said, looking at Varix. And now, thousands of years later, it saved us too. Varix made a gesture that needed no translation, a simple bow of respect. Back at the colony, the remaining Tarvos ground forces were in retreat. With their main ship destroyed and no reinforcements coming, they were abandoning the fight. Elaine received word from Captain Hayes. Final evacuation is underway. We need to leave now. Kelly approached with the Elder and a group of Lyrans. What about them? She asked. The Tarvos will return eventually. Elaine relayed the question to Captain Hayes, who didn't hesitate. We have room. If they want to come with us, they're welcome. The Elder considered this, then responded through the translation device. Some stay, guard home. Some go, learn stars again. As the final shuttles prepared to leave, Peter and the team from the mountain facility returned. They were tired, but triumphant. The defense system is offline, Peter reported. It gave everything it had. Just like we all did, Elaine said. They boarded the last shuttle together, colonists, Earth Alliance personnel, and Lyrans. As they rose through the atmosphere, Elaine looked down at the colony that had been their home, and almost their grave. Captain Hayes met them in the Horizon's shuttle bay. Welcome aboard, she said. We've set course for Earth Alliance space. It's a long journey, but you'll be safe there. What will happen to us? Elaine asked. We've lost everything. Not everything, Captain Hayes replied. You still have each other, and now you have us. She gestured to her crew. Earth knows what it's like to be abandoned. We won't do the same to you. Later, in the ship's observation deck, Elaine, Peter, and Dr. Frost stood with Captain Hayes, watching as Lyra 6 grew smaller in the distance. I received a message from Earth Command, Captain Hayes told them. They've agreed to establish a new colony. Anyone who wants to return to Lyra 6 can do so, with proper supplies and support this time. And the Tarvos? Peter asked. They'll think twice before returning after losing a battlecruiser, Captain Hayes said. And next time you won't be alone. As the Horizon engaged its main engines and the planet became just another point of light among the stars, Elaine felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. The Confederation had left them behind, but humanity, true humanity, had come to their rescue, and together they had found a way to survive.